All right, let's talk about the government, America, Americans, the Hurricane Helene response, the aftermath, the flooding. Let's just have a chat about all this before we get specifically to the hurricane and FEMA and the government and those things. I want to talk about anti-humans. This is going to be about the government, anti-humans, what their motivation is. Why do they say the things they say? Why do they do what they do? And why do they not do the things they don't do? I'm sure that's not how you're supposed to put that, but you understand what I mean. Why don't they do this? They should do this, they don't. They do this, they shouldn't. What? Why? Well, we call them anti-humans. I didn't come up with that phrase. Others have used it before for communists. But why anti-human? Why are they so anti-human? Well, we could get into the demonic nature of the communists, but we don't need to do that right now. I want to go a different route. Have you ever known somebody, you undoubtedly have you ever known somebody in your life who is transactional? Ever had a transactional friend, neighbor, acquaintance? Kind of guy, you never hear from him. 6 months to a year, you don't hear from him. Calls you up out of the blue one day. Hey, Bill, let's go get a beer. I miss you. And you're thinking, yeah, I'll go get a beer with him. And you go sit down for a beer with him. And within 5 minutes, he's asking to borrow your tool set and needs to borrow your car along with it. And then it dawns on you, light bulb goes on, wait a minute. You want to have a beer with me? I'm transactional. I'm used. I'm used for his purposes. And beyond his purposes, he never thinks of me at all. You've known people like this in your life. You've worked with people like this. There are people like that. Well, when your government turns evil, when the people who lead your country lose any sense of honor or duty to the people, the government, the people who occupy your government, they turn transactional. You, the American citizen, you're just transactional to them. And you see this by the differing ways they respond to differing challenges, disasters, well, I don't know what word we want to put on it, tragedies. Remember just a couple nights ago when J.D. Vance was beating the crap out of Tim Walz in the debate? Remember when Sandy Hook came up?
I think all the parents watching tonight, this is just your biggest nightmare. Look, I got a 17-year-old and he witnessed a shooting at a community center playing volleyball. Those things don't leave you. As a member of Congress, I sat in my office surrounded by dozens of the Sandy Hook parents, and they were looking at my 7-year-old picture on the wall. Their 7-year-old were dead, and they were asking us to do something.
You previously opposed an assault weapons ban, but only later in your political career did you change your position. Why?
Yeah, I sat in that office with those Sandy Hook parents. I've become friends with school shooters. I've seen it.
But we'll set aside that last little verbal hiccup there, friends with school shooters. But see what he did there? We are years removed from Sandy Hook. And not that it's not still horrible, it's awful. One of the worst days of my life, to be honest with you, that didn't personally involve me. It was just awful. Anyway, we're years removed from Sandy Hook. And we're at a VP debate in the year of our Lord 2024. And Walz is bringing it up. And he even noticed he brought up the picture of his son, his 7-year-old son, and then the parents. Why? Do you think Tim Walz goes to sleep at night, wakes up in the morning, and spends even a split second thinking about Sandy Hook? Well, no. Sandy Hook was an opportunity. It wasn't a tragedy. The communist doesn't think in those terms. When you're in anti-human, there's no such thing as a human tragedy. You understand? No such thing. It doesn't matter. You think, well, if it got too bad, they would care. No. There's no such thing as a human tragedy to an anti-human because they're purely transactional. No matter what happens, whether it's great, whether it's terrible, everything is simply an opportunity to move the revolution forward. President of the United States of America, surveying the worst hurricane aftermath since Hurricane Katrina. And honestly, from the things I'm hearing on the ground, it may end up being worse. He made it about climate change.
Let me close with this. Nobody can deny the impact of climate crisis anymore. At least I hope they don't. They must be brain dead if they do.
Imagine as President of the United States of America, you're surveying death, bodies hanging from the trees, homes wiped out, people still missing their loved ones, and you bring up climate change and try to put a little bow on that argument, and now you can't argue it anymore. How could you be so cold? Look, they did it at the debate the other night. This thing happened before that debate, and this was how it was talked about during the debate.
Let's turn now to Hurricane Helene. The storm could become one of the deadliest on record. More than 160 people are dead and hundreds more are missing. Scientists say climate change makes these hurricanes larger, stronger, and more deadly because of the historic rainfall.
They can't help themselves. Why? It's a transactional relationship. You're in East Tennessee, you're in North Carolina, your life's been wiped out, your grandma washed away, you haven't seen your dog in 3 days. Still, there's no tragedy there. You're transactional. You see, I can look at your suffering if I'm an anti-human, no matter what you're going through. If I don't care about humanity or you're just an opportunity for me. Now, they know they can't be too forward about that. They try to cover it up in the best of ways, but it's interesting that even when they try to cover it up, it kind of comes out of them in the worst ways. Did you see what they're doing for the victims? $750?
And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met.
$750. Did you know that FEMA spent $641 million this year alone on illegal immigrants? Did you know that? Yes, that's right. The Emergency Disaster Relief Federal Government Organization took $641 million of your money this year alone and handed it out to illegals. And when people, American citizens in North Carolina and Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, lost everything, the federal government showed up and handed them a $750 check. It's so insulting. They might as well have showed up, lined every single survivor up, and spit in every single one of their faces. Now, let's be clear about something. It's not that the federal government actually should be involved in this at all, because they can't be. They're such a disorganized, evil disaster, they can't be. But now that they are, normal Americans are seeing just how deeply evil, treasonous, and disloyal the United States government has become. Hundreds of millions of dollars to bring foreigners into your country to take your job, your school, your health care, and your home. And if a flood or a hurricane happens to wipe you out, they'll stroke you a $750 check and then complain that you're whining a little bit too much. That is the kind of government we currently live under. Evil. These people are evil. They're not wrong. They're not bad. We're dealing with some kind of anti-human evil here that is palpable, and we better accept it and act on it. Now, that said, I know it's been a lot of terrible tragedy, terrible stories. The things people are texting me and emailing me from the ground over there are so bad. It's so bad. And as more and more comes out, we will all see just how bad it's been. Now, obviously, all that's the bad. The government's bad, the tragedy's bad, it's terrible. But on the lighter side, or on the better side, not lighter, but on the better side, what I've seen from Americans since Helene tore through this country has been so amazing. I haven't felt this inspired I know that's odd in the face of so much tragedy and death to feel inspired, but I haven't felt this inspired about my fellow Americans since Hurricane Harvey happened. Hurricane Harvey happened in my area, the Houston area, and the whole place was underwater for days. And the place did not descend into anarchy, as so many places around the world would. We cared for each other. Everybody did. Everyone. It was universal. People came from other states, from across the country, just to help. Food, water, rafts, boats. We had the Cajun Navy cruising in from Louisiana like the Spanish Armada. I was so inspired watching it, watching neighbor help neighbor. And now you have just devastation. Towns along the river washed away. There's gone. And Americans from all over the country, many of them veterans, not all, but many of them veterans, swoop in. Food, water, medical care, shelter, repairing bridges. What has been happening over the last few days, not by the federal government, all they can do is ruin everything and screw everything up, but what has been happening over the last few days should inspire you about your fellow Americans. Yes, our government is stupid, evil, and wrong, but the American people are not. And what America is the American people. We are not the government. It's you, it's me, it's all of us. And in the face of unimaginable tragedy and suffering, Americans once again stood up for their fellow Americans and will continue to do so. That is where my hope lies, in you. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.